My name is Earl House. I was born in Baltimore, Maryland on August the 30th, 1931. My mother worked for a department store downtown Baltimore. My father worked for a company called Cranicourt and Seal. They made machinery for Coca-Cola, Pepsi-Cola, stuff like that. They also made tops for the bottles. When I was growing up, I lived in East Baltimore, then we moved to West Baltimore, then we moved to North Baltimore. We eventually moved to Parkville, Maryland, which is on the thing here. And I went to school at the other two schools, at the other place I lived. I went to school and I was in the 4th grade and I failed. I was in the 6th grade and I failed. I wasn't paying attention to the teacher, which I do now. I do that very much. And my mother and father took me out of that school and put me in vocational school. I went to the Wilbur Wright General Vocational School in Baltimore City. But living in the county, I had to pay a tuition because it's a city school. So what I did, I lived with my grandmother in South Baltimore so I could go to school, which is up the road. I graduated in the 8th grade, from the 8th grade, and then I went to high school. When I went to high school, I was in the 3rd week of high school. I said, enough's enough. I got up and walked out, never went back.
When was that?
I quit high school in 1948.
48. So what were you doing when the Korean War broke out?
I was in a Naval Reserve
Oh.
up at Great Lakes, Illinois. That's where we went for 2 weeks summer encampment. And when the Korean War broke out, and we came back on a train, I took a pencil and put it on the paper where the pictures were inside the paper, and I wrote on our way to Korea. But we didn't. I didn't go to Korea then. I went back to the Navy. I went back home, went to the Naval Reserves on weekends, but they took our regular Navy personnel for World War II, and they shipped them overseas. We had Naval Reserves teaching us. I didn't like it anymore. I wanted the real thing. I wanted the real person. So I said, I'm going to go into another branch of service. You want it all? Okay. I was working downtown. I went to the Coast Guard, and I took the Coast Guard written test. I passed the written test. I failed the physical. Too many cavities.
Oh.
I have something else now. So I didn't pass. So I walked across the street to the Air Force without a high school diploma. I went to the 3rd page of the test. I could not do the math right. I couldn't figure it out in my head. I had to figure it out, how to do it. And algebra was out of my league. So I did not make it. So I took the papers, put them all nice and neat together, walked from here to your daughter, from here to that lady there, and I went in the Army. Army takes anybody. They took me. I went in the Army. I enlisted. I got sworn in at 1:30 p.m. on Saturday, December the 30th, 1950. At 4:30 that afternoon, I was involved in an automobile accident where it put me in Fort Meade Hospital for 1 week. I was all puffed up, my eyes puffed up, I lost some teeth, which I later got a partial. After 1 week in hospital, I reported to Fort Meade, stayed at Fort Meade, got uniforms, needles, everything else, tests, blood tests. What we did is they were pushed for time. They gave us a piece of glass, and you suck your finger and you put your finger on the glass and you just pass it to someone else so they get your blood type.
So when did you leave for Korea?
We didn't leave. We had to go take basic training at Cape Breckenridge, Kentucky, and that was January through May of 1951. So I always say we left basic training around May the 3rd of 51, and on the 23rd of May of 51, we were on a troop ship on the way overseas to the Far East.
Far East, and you went to Japan or Korea?
I went to Japan first. We docked at nighttime. We got to Tokyo or Yokohama at nighttime. We couldn't dock until the next morning. So we docked and unloaded us, put it on buses, took us to Camp Drake. All over Camp Drake was the first cab, the yellow patch, the big yellow patch. That was all the smokestacks, everything. We stayed there probably 3 days. They took us to the rifle range because they issued us rifles when we left California. we had to clean the rifles, going overseas, clean the rifles. And then Camp Drake took us to a rifle range, gave us 5 shots. I got 3 bullseyes out of 5. So I was qualified.
How long did you stay and when did you leave for Korea?
I was 19.
Huh?
Well, how old?
No. How long did you stay in Japan?
Oh, in Japan, no, we left Drake about 3 days later, went down to Sasebo to a replacement center. They gave us a pass. We went into the town of Sasebo, first time in a foreign country. But on the way down on the train from Yokohama to Sasebo, we had change in our pocket. They're probably millionaires, I don't know. And we threw pennies off the back of the train, back of the train. We got to Sasebo. We stayed there maybe a week. And then they took us down to the pier, put us on a Japanese luxury liner. And we slept on a mat about that long. It reminds you of the kind you put it in front of your house to wipe your feet off on. And we stayed on there, and they took us overnight to Busan.
Busan.
We got to Busan, go ahead.
When did you arrive?
Around the 17th, I think, something like that. It's on here.
17th
of June.
June of
1951.
51.
Yeah.
Right.
And we stayed, when we got off the ship, they gave us breakfast. We had SOS, I know everybody knows what SOS is. Cream chip beef on toast. We had cold cereal, hot coffee, and they put us into a compound. They had barbed wire all the way around the compound.
Mm-hmm.
Not to keep us from going out, but to keep people coming in.
Okay. Before you left for Korea, have you heard about Korea before, or did you
I didn't hear
know where
about Korea
was?
until I was in the Naval Reserve, and they said the Korean War, the North Koreans attacked the South Korea. That's the first I heard about it. And we did nothing about it, Korea. Nothing.
So what was your feeling when you came to know that you have to go to a place where you never heard of it and you have to fight for people that you never met before?
I knew when I enlisted in the Army, I knew I was going to go there. I knew I was going to go to Korea.
What was your feeling that you have to fight?
Just excitement, I guess. Excitement about going to Korea.
You were excited?
Yeah, in a way, going to a foreign country. Yeah, because the only other country I've been to when I was a kid was Canada. That's as far as we got. But back then you could just drive across the border, and no papers were needed. Now you need papers today, and passport and stuff like that. All we have was an identification card. But we all knew we were going to go to Korea when we finished basic training, because we got a company formation. I think it was raining. I think it was raining. I'm trying to remember all this stuff. And the company commander gave out the orders, and he said, Far East on everybody. He called each name out and said Korea. He said, yeah, but you're not supposed to say that. I said, well, we knew we were going to Korea. But some of the guys stayed in Japan. They didn't go to Korea. They picked them out for maybe secretaries or something like that, because they had the brains to do that stuff. But then we got to Korea, the sort of excitement died off. When we found out, when we went to the replacement center, the 7th Division Replacement Center, and then got on 2.5 ton Army trucks, we were issued 3 rounds or 4 rounds to put in the M1, and we were told there were snipers in the area.
So, what was your specialty and what unit that you were in?
Okay, the specialty was a rifleman, infantry.
Infantry. What division?
I was assigned to Company B.
Company B.
1st Battalion, 31st Infantry Regiment of the 7th Infantry Division. After a month or 2 months in that company, they had a formation, and they need a volunteer for the 30 caliber machine gun. So I raised my hand. I carried a steel pot, I carried a pack, and I carried 2 containers of 30 caliber ammunition, 1 in each hand, plus a carbine. I had a carbine rifle. The M1 I lost, that went to someone else. And then we went to different locations. We didn't go up on the front line yet. And then one day we went to this very large hill.
Where?
In the Mangnangdi Valley.
So, After you arrived in Busan,
Busan,
June 1951, right?
51.
Yeah. What happened? Did you go right into the 38 parallel area?
Oh,
or
no, no.
What happened?
We took the train and went up to Chinchan, and then they trucked us to the 7th Division Replacement Center, and we stayed there. And then we eventually went up in the company. Eventually took us to Company B, and we stayed there maybe.
Where? Chuncheon?
No, it's above, you said Busan? No, it's above Chinchan, it's above Chinchan. But it wasn't at the 38th parallel yet.
I know, but do you remember the name of the unit base?
No, it wasn't no camp then. It wasn't, just an area.
Okay.
Yeah, we had like a perimeter, we were inside, we had guards going around us, yeah.
So north of Chuncheon.
The Chinchan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But once we got there, and then we got to the signed to the company, and then eventually we went up on that large hill. We stayed on that large hill for 30 days.
Uh-huh.
We did not go forward, we didn't go back, but while there, our artillery was firing over our hill,
Yes.
but hitting the back of the hill. They call it a short round, and we heard explosions, and it was hitting the back of our hill. In order to go take a shower, we had to go all the way back down the hill again. It's like on this roof of this building, go down the hill and come back up again, walk back up. Like I said, we stayed there 30 days. We saw a couple Army tanks get knocked out, American tanks get knocked out. And about 4 or 5 miles in front of us, we saw 4 Air Force planes with powers come down and dive and bomb. The 4th one came down and went up, it rolled over, went back down again, it got hit. Okay,
So who was the enemy there? North Koreans or Chinese?
probably North Koreans,
North Koreans. Mhm.
But they had, in front of us was Old Baldy, Port Chop Hill. I didn't get to Port Chop Hill. Old Baldy was in front of us. They raked that, they bombed it, raked it, shelled it, did everything to it. But they still came out and got us. They came out and got us, yeah.
And you engage in combat every day?
No, we weren't engaged in combat at all.
At all?
Not that 30 days, no. At the end of that month, I just turned 20 years old, and we went into enemy territory. And we went up one hill and down and went up. We must have walked 10 miles, I don't know. I thought it was a long way. We finally got to one hill, and we got up on the hill and said, don't touch anything. There was bodies laying there, black boys and white boys from the 24th Infantry Division. They had the patch on their arm, who were dead. Grade registration, hadn't picked them up yet. And they
You
might have
mean
been,
North Koreans? North Koreans are dead there, right?
No, American GIs.
So what happened?
There was we didn't see any dead North Koreans, no.
But you said that after the U.S. Air Force bombed that area, you went up there and you find Americans
No,
over
this
there?
was one area, we went to another area. It was one area here, Old Baldy's over here, one area was here, and we went to another area up in the valley, yeah. But when we got to that one hill, and we took that hill over, we set up defensive positions. There's a T-bone. There's a T-bone like this, a T-bone.
Yeah.
Machine gun went down to this corner, the 3.5 rocket launcher went to this corner, and I was back here, so I was back in here. And we had a trench that we dug down deeper so we could stay in that trench. At 1:30 in the morning, after they did get all the bodies out of there. They picked them up and took them out. They took the watch and rings off, put them in the bag. They got them all. At 1:30 the next morning, we got hit by mortar fire. No one got killed. GIs are dumb. They yell out, "Hey Joe, you okay? Hey Bob, you okay? Hey Bill, we were okay." About 1:45, you hear we heard noise, we heard gunfire, and the 2 men who had the 30 caliber machine gun, they got overrun, and they come running past us. And I said, "What happened?" They said they overrun our position, and we started shooting. I had one hand grenade, and I pulled the pin, let it go, I waited, and I tossed it to where I thought the enemy. Did I kill anybody? I do not know. The man upstairs does. I don't know.
Or was there any moment that you were really close to enemies?
You couldn't see him. You couldn't see him. We didn't see him. All we did was gunfire. Bullets whizzing by and everything. And we kept shooting until someone says, move back. So the platoon moved back, and we kept moving back until we were back with the company CP. We were like Custer. We were in an area, we were all together shooting. People say, what were you doing behind a tree? I said, I was using that for protection. I was behind a tree next to another guy, and the other guy says, I'm hit, I'm hit. I found out he later died when I went, and then I got hit, and then someone yelled out, get these wounded off of the hill, and they got like 8 or 9 of us off the hill. We went down this hill, and we went into a bunker, because the enemy's still shooting at us.
Mm-hmm.
I did not see the enemy. All I saw was...
Throughout whole service in Korea, during the Korean
Oh,
War?
I saw him later. When I drove the Jeep, I saw him. With prisoners, I saw North Koreans. Yeah, I saw them then.
So, when did you leave Korea? When did you depart from Korea?
Oh, I left Korea April, the 21st of April, 1952. I came back home again.
So you've been there more like 2 years?
A year, less than a year.
Less than a
I
year.
got there in June.
June
And
51.
I left in April.
Yes,
I left
yes.
in April, but with us being on the line, we got 4 points. We're in the battle area, because after the hill and after I got hit, went to the hospital, came back, they were back in combat again. Pardon me. And then we eventually went to Watchine Reservoir. We left there, and we came back to I forgot what area it was. I think Inji. We had Thanksgiving there. Thanksgiving there. We had Thanksgiving dinner there. And another guy I met, I don't know where he's at, in headquarters company, they had chow at 12 o'clock. Our company didn't have chow until like 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon. So we went to his place and had chow. We went to our place and had chow. Had 2 Christmas dinners. 3 days after Thanksgiving, 1951, we went back on the line. We were here, and the enemy was the Pentagon. That's how close we were to it. Every day, someone got killed. Every day we lost somebody.
Could you describe the most dangerous moment in your service?
When I got hit, when I was in combat, shooting the carbine and never knowing what to expect. We were shooting right towards the enemy. There was a fire at the end of the hill. I don't know what started that. I remember that. But I could not see the enemy. Some of the guys probably did. I did not. I didn't see the enemy until I started driving a Jeep in October or November of '51. When I came back from the hospital in October, I started driving the Jeep. And then we picked up prisoners, and I saw that we had them in the Jeep.
When were you hit? Where?
I got hit in my left shoulder, in my left shoulder, a hole about the size of a dime. And when I got hit, and the medics went to get, our guys went to get the medics, they wouldn't come up and get us because we kept getting small arm fire from the enemy. So they brought 2 tanks up. 2 tanks came up, and they came up and got us. And they said, can you walk? I said, I can walk. I must have walked from here, probably to the Pentagon. And I walked back. When I got back to where the aid station was, one of the guys I took basic training with come running up to me, and he says, where are you hit? I said, left shoulder. He said, you're going to Japan. And then he yelled out, he says, where's Huffman at? Another boy we took basic with. I said, he's still up on the hill. He never got a scratch. He never got a scratch. Because I met him after I came back to the hospital.
Did you get medal for that wound?
I got a Purple Heart.
Purple Heart.
I got a Purple Heart. But it never bothered me, only in the rain, when it got damp it bothered me. And then years later, about 10 years ago, I'm getting gasoline in my car, and I double up in pain. Like I had a real bad my side hurt.
You told me in the beginning of this interview that you were excited to know that you were
I wasn't excited
leaving.
no more.
You were leaving for Korea.
I wasn't excited no more. No. I had scared out of me, blank scared out of me.
So what do you? I mean, just tell me about your overall thought about the war, and especially the Korean War.
Why we were there? I think we were there for one reason, to stop. And they kept emphasizing this the whole time we took basic and into Korea on the ship and into Korea. Were you ever a communist? Were you ever a commie? I said, I didn't know what the word was. I didn't know what the word was. And then I found out what we did. We stopped it. We stopped it right there in Korea. But, you know, I'm glad I went because I did something right. And I did come back. I feel sorry for the guys that didn't come back, you know. You get upset about it sometimes, you know, you think about it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
What was the most difficult moments in your service? Can you give me one or two?
I had something happen at Watchheim. And I'll try to forget about that. Something happened at Watchheim Reservoir.
What reservoir?
At Watchheim. We were up on the hill. We took boats from one side to the other side.
What is the name of reservoir?
Watchheim Reservoir.
Oh,
Watchheim.
Okay.
And
Watchheim. Okay.
And someone fired a rifle, and I fell apart. I started crying and shivering and shaking. I broke down. And I stayed with the exec that night in that area. I stayed with that area. I had the shakes, and I think it caught up to me.
What did you do? Did you pray or what?
No, I guess I did pray. I don't know what I did. I can't remember. I just broke down. I broke down and started crying. Yeah.
Crying?
So the guy shot the rifle off, accidental. He wasn't shooting at the enemy. He just wasn't on safety. He pulled the trigger. I fell apart. I just broke. I broke right there. But when I broke, they got me off the line. He gave me the Jeep driving job. I started driving the Jeep. Mm-hmm. But every time the first sergeant called me, it was a new first lieutenant out of West Point who wanted to see the front line. I said, they're shooting real bullets up there. I want to see the front line. I took him up to see the front line.
And what did he say?
And he saw the front line. I said, he was up there maybe an hour. And I sat in the Jeep. He went up the hill and went with the position and went like that and he came back. Now we go back now. Thank you. Went back. Because there was always artillery coming in. Plus, the guerrillas were shooting at us. Every once in a while they shoot at us. And we had that what's that plane called? They had a plane fly over and drop bombs. I can't think of his name. They had a name for him. I can't think of that. But the most, it wasn't scary what happened. I want to tell you now what something happened. I was washing my Jeep. Someone else was washing their truck in this stream. And you got to visualize this. It's a stream, a bank, a bridge, and up on the hill, the 3rd Battalion of the 31st Infantry Regiment were giving out medals, and they played the national anthem. As far as you could see in that area, we came out of the water, we went to present arms, everybody came out of the water, the guys on the bridge, the traffic wasn't going that fast. They stopped, they got out, and they saluted too, until the national anthem stopped. And then when it stopped, we went back to washing the Jeep again, and with rags, wherever we could find. We used to put oil on there to keep it shiny, We did crazy things. With oil on there to keep it shiny. And then I went back to the company area. The company sent me to get water, back to Water Point. I went back to get water. And that's probably the scariest point. I went back to get water. I had a trailer. I had it full of water. And I'm going back up, and the MP stopped me, and he said, where are you going? I said, to the 31st. We got snipers shooting at the vehicles. I said, oh, thanks a lot. So I called the motor pool sergeant. I said, hey, Sarge, I got snipers standing there shooting at us. He said, I'll come down. So he drove the Jeep. I had the M1 safety off, finger on the trigger. Finger on it. So everybody said, boo, they're dead. I'm gonna shoot them. Yeah. I think that was probably the scariest. Other than getting hit, that was horrible.
So sniper was more fearful than just engaging in massive combat, right?
They wanted us. Well, actually, I didn't do no hand to hand. I didn't do none of that. No. It was once we kept moving back on that hill, and we kept firing until we got hit. At least 8 or 9 guys got hit, and we wound up going to the hospital in Japan. We lost 15 enlisted men. They say my company commander put on one hell of a fight. He must have did hand to hand.
So you continued to drive the Jeep after that?
I drove the Jeep from the end of October until I rotated home. Yeah. And when I was in the tent, we were in reserve in NG, and they said the first sergeant wants you. I said, uh-oh, another second lieutenant or first lieutenant wants to see the front line. but that wasn't it. You want to go home? I said, yeah. They said, tomorrow morning, turn all your clothes, I turned them in that night, turn all your clothes in, turn your rifle in, turn everything in, your carbine, and you get on, when the truck comes to pick you up, get on the truck and go home. That's okay.
What did you feel?
Oh, excited. Oh, very excited. But when I got
So
hit,
you excited to be in Korea,
I
but
was
you
excited
excited
I
to
was excited
leave
about going to
Korea.
Korea. Now I'm excited about getting the hell out of Korea because they were shooting real bullets over there. After I left Korea, this division went to Port Chop Hill.
Mhm.
The division lost men, so many men they went down to regiment strength. The regiment lost so many men they went down to company strength. The company lost so many men they went down to platoon strength. They got hit very, very, very hard. Because I was stationed at Camp Pickett, Virginia, and we got all the information in the Army paper that we were, Army Times that we were reading. So we were lucky to get out of there. Yeah.
Except your departure, okay? What was the most rewarding moments
Oh,
throughout
depart-
your service?
When we left Japan, when they threw confetti at us and singing California Here We Come, the band playing California Here We Come. I got seasick going over. I was seasick for 3 days. But coming back, we went over on a small ship. We came back on a big ship, 2-stacker, big troop like a Queen Mary. It didn't roll that much. It didn't roll that much. I didn't get sick. But we had ice cream, not powder stuff, ice cream, milkshakes, hot coffee, probably pie, like Mom made. We took us 14 days to get to Seattle, and when we got to Seattle, Washington, we were going to dock on the starboard side. We were going to dock on the port. They couldn't make up their mind, and everybody's running back, and the ship's going like this. It's going back and forth like this. All the people running back and forth. We finally docked. Many a soldier ran down the gangplank and kissed USA, the ground. I saw that. They kissed the ground. They were glad to get home.
What was the living condition?
What?
Living condition during your
Over there?
service? Yeah.
Horrible. Living in a pup tent. We slept in a pup tent, or we slept in a tent like MASH had, like the animal MASH.
Yep.
And many a time we took a bath out of the steel pot. Many a time. And you shaved in it too. Many a time. I think we shaved last. Yeah, when did we get all that whipped cream in there, the cream in it? Yeah, we shaved last. At one point at Cap Young, someone said, let's start a fire in the stove that was in the tent. I did not know that someone had already put something in there, and I took a sea ration can of gasoline in there, and I dumped it, and they got me. It went down my arm, my uniform, and they rushed me outside. I never went to the H. I just brushed it off. I brushed it off. Yeah, forget about it. But we went swimming with the yellow, green, orange, pink frogs, and one night they had movies, and I missed the truck, and I must have walked a mile with a steel rifle, a steel helmet and a rifle and no ammunition, by myself, pitch black. They said, what'd you do, walk? I said, I walked it. You crazy. It could be anybody out there to get you. I said, I had a rifle. I hit him with the rifle. I couldn't shoot at him. I had no ammunition. We went to the movies. But later, they brought the movies to our area where...
Did you watch movie during the
I
service?
found it. We watched movies, Hollywood movies. We watched movies, yeah, Hollywood movies, yeah. We watched them, yeah.
How?
So we had a movie projector. They brought a projector in, a movie projector, 16 millimeter, great big thing. They brought it in. We had movies, and just like in MASH, sometimes the film broke, or it was pouring down, raining, and the tent. They had a tent, and then a canvas, and then another tent. Sometimes the canvas would leak. The water would come down on top of us. We got it straightened out, and we went back watching the movie.
How many movies did you watch?
Oh, we watched a couple of them in reserve, yeah.
Really?
Hollywood movies.
What was your
had
favorite?
Had girls in it. We had one of the girls, but we were one of the girls at all. No.
What was your favorite movie? Do you remember?
No, not offhand.
No?
No.
So when you come back, what people say to you?
Glad to see me come back, but go back to Korea when I got hit and I was in the hospital in Japan. I could not write with this hand or this hand. I had to go through therapy and walk steps with my hands. My arms were hurting so bad. Both arms were hurting so bad. The Red Cross wrote my next door neighbor a letter and telling Mrs. Wright that I was wounded in action in order to tell my mother. My letter got there first. The Army telegram got there second. My brother was at this school where we both went playing baseball. They went up and got him and said, "You better go home, your mother's upset. Your brother's just wounded in action." And that's when they found out that I was wounded in action in Korea. And then when Seattle, Washington, everybody got out of the post except us. We flew home from Seattle, but the plane had engine trouble, so we had to wait overnight. And then we flew home the next day. But we flew from Seattle to Denver, Colorado. We all got off the plane. They had to fuel it, stuff like that. There was civilian people in there, and they want to know what we did, where we came from. And I think they probably bought us drinks, because I wasn't on medication like I am now. Older. And we had a ball. We had a good time. We had the same we had the same flight crew from Seattle to Denver to Chicago. We lost the flight crew and we lost our pilot. And then we flew from Chicago to Baltimore to BWI. And then the Army picked us up and they picked us up on a bus. And they took us into Fort Meade and we were in this barracks. And I said, "I'm hungry." And the other guy said, "I'm hungry." He said, "We got to get out of formation." I said, "Okay, how we do it? You're the sergeant, you're the sergeant, I have a PFC, let's get cracking, let's go. Get us in formation, we'll march down." The mess hall at Fort Meade, Maryland, fed 5,000 men at a meal. That's how big that mess hall was. When we went through that chow line with the tray, and they saw our ribbons, saw the patch, saw the stripes, they knew they had to go over there too. But eventually that mess hall came down. But years later, when I got married, and my next door neighbor, I was telling him about Fort Meade, Maryland, and the consolidated mess hall. He wanted to see it, so I took him down to Fort. He was in the service in World War II, so I took him down to see the mess hall and see Fort Meade. When we got to Fort Meade, finished dinner or finished breakfast, went back. Processing takes forever. This has got to be done. That's got to be. But the most important thing is, when I got back from Korea, I had 2 MOSs.
What is MOSs?
That's your job qualification for what you could do. 1745 was infantry, 4345 was truck driver. And I was asked at that time by this sergeant, "Do you want to go to Fort Myers, Virginia, or you want to become a truck driver?" I said, "What's at Fort Myers, Virginia?" He said, "Infantry." At that time, I did not know. It was the unknown. I did not know. I didn't know. It would have been an honor to go there. While at Fort Dix, New Jersey, the personnel called me up. "You're up for sergeant." I said, "I'll take it." "No, you come." Yeah, I had to go talk to the guy in personnel. And he says, "You're up for sergeant." And I made E6. I made E6. I said, "Now get me out of here." I went to Iceland, the country of Iceland, for 1 year. And we pulled guard duty up there. We guarded the ammo dump, the radio towers, and the fuel depot for the U.S. Air Force. Yeah.
So military service was a big part of your whole life.
Yeah.
So
I like the Army. I don't know. I just liked it. Well, why didn't I stay? I don't know. Backside, kicked in the rear end.
what do you think the impact of Korean War upon your life?
It probably made me into a man, I guess. Scared the daylights out of me. Oh, John Wayne, I was not. John Wayne could do anything. I'm not the only one who was scared. We were all scared. You didn't want to get hit. You didn't want to get killed. And
I mean, could you be honest with me about when you were scared in the foreign country you never heard of before? I mean, how did you feel about it? Why do you have to sacrifice?
I just wanted to get away from everybody in the family to prove I could do something, that I wasn't afraid. In their eyes, but I was afraid. In their eyes, they thought I was brave. But we went. We were kids. We were 19 years old, 18 years old, 17 years old, even 16 years old, and they found them kids, and they sent them back to their mother and father. They lied about their age and went into service. They were in our company. We had them in our company, and they got them out and sent them back to USA. Why did they do that? I don't know.
You said that because of the war with Iraq and Afghanistan, I think the Korean War veterans now getting more
We get
spotlight.
more. I get wherever I'm at. I'm in the bathroom. The guy comes in. He said, "Oh, 7th Division, Korea." He said, "Thank you for doing what you did." I said, "I wish I could have done more." Yeah.
Why do you think that the Korean War has been called forgotten? Why? Why was it so unpopular?
Self-explanatory. I'll tell you right now. Okay. We went to an Army show at Largo one year. They introduced. They said, "Anybody here for World War I?"
When was that?
Yep, at an Army show
When?
at Largo, a place called Largo.
But when was that?
That was in like with the gathering, except we were association then.
Recent?
No, it was about 15 years ago.
Okay.
About 15 years, we went to an all-Army show, all men, no women, all men. They introduced, they said, "Well, anybody here for World War I, World War II, Vietnam?"
They skipped.
They skipped right over the top.
Why?
So our color guard captain went up to the guy who had the microphone and said, "You forgot the Korean War veterans, plus we have a Medal of Honor winner sitting with us." And that was Colonel Sitter. I think it was Colonel Sitter sitting with us, Medal of Honor winner from Korea. He got a standing ovation. We got a standing ovation. We got a standing ovation.
I mean, my question is why was it so unpopular so that they had to skip
They act
this?
like we should have been there. We should have been there. We should have not went there.
I mean, there are many words that you shouldn't be there.
Yeah,
The Americans shouldn't be
Vietnam,
there.
They heard about that Vietnam. The guys are going AWOL. They're going to camp. We didn't do that. We raised that right hand. We went into service. We did what we were told to do. We went with the Army to Korea. We were supposed to help people. That's what we did. That's what
Right.
the Army does, help people, right? And kill people.
But my question is why was it so unpopular? Why people didn't recognize you? Why?
Because I went to Korea? I don't know. We got a lot of respect in Korea. What they did for us was wonderful. I give them a 10-star.
But I don't
10
think
star. We loved it. They treated us like we were gods. You couldn't be treated any better. The interpreters were wonderful. They were wonderful. They stayed right with us.
I don't think it's comparable to your sacrifice. Americans, young Americans, men and women
But
died.
the 33,000 men we lost, I still say the mountains we saw, the hills we saw, and I made the comment, somewhere up there, it's a GI up there buried somewhere. They'll never find him. They'll never find him.
Have you ever imagined a young, excited boy, okay, came to Korea without knowing anything about Korea,
Nothing.
and you were scared,
Yeah.
excited,
Scared, excited, didn't know what was going to happen to us.
and then you were excited to depart Korea, and then when
I was
you
glad to get out of there.
yeah, and when you revisit Korea,
Yeah.
what a
We
dramatic.
were amazed. We were all amazed.
That's-
Trees, grass, buildings. There were no buildings when we were there. Everything was flat. And I should not say this, but to me, when we were in Korea, it reminded you of a desolate, horrible place that they went through when they lost the people. And what the North Korean and Chinese did to you people is horrible. I mean, thousands and thousands of people. The little kid, why do you kill a little kid? A little kid ain't gonna do nothing to you.
Mhm.
But they showed pictures of that on television. I seen that on History Channel. See GIs with their hands tied behind their back, shot in the head. I want the hostilities to win to stop between South Korea and North Korea. Let it be one Korea. Let the family for the North visit the family in South, South visit the North. We went to Panmunjom, and we were told what to do. No gestures. And when he said, "This is North Korea," that's not North Korea. This is North Korea. We did the same thing. We did this. We didn't do it then. We do it now. We went into that barracks, that hut, and 5 of us went around the table. The interpreter says, "You are now," that corporal said, "You are now in North Korea." That was the first time we've been back in North Korea since 1951.